Anybody's going to stop by and have a conversation tonight. I'm kind of high on gratitude today. You know, this morning at 1:30 a.m. was 32 years sober, and it's a miracle. Um, Absolutely. So I'm just going to sit back, see who joins in. I want to hear about your sobriety journey and what you've been up to, what it looks like for you. There's a lot of gratitude right now in my life today for the sobriety I have, and I'm just grateful for this opportunity to share it with you and maybe hear some of your sobriety stories and how many years you have clean, what it's meant to your life and to everybody in your family and your circle. Because I know it's not just me, it's everybody around me that's impacted by my sobriety and the gift that I've been given. And I'm just here to tell some stories, you know. I remember March 11th, 1993 at 1:30 a.m. That's where this whole moment started that I'm sitting here with you over 32 years ago this morning. Um, I remember being in a prison cell, broken, destroyed, life at the end of the road. I mean, a bottom that very few probably find. And I remember crying. I was broken. And I remember just thinking in that place, who is this? This is not who I am. I know this isn't who I am. How did I get here? And it was like almost like my real brain or my authentic self or whatever that spark was that was Lance showed up and it said, what are we doing? This isn't working and we need help. And it was in that moment that I cried out and I said a prayer. Probably the most deepest, one of the deepest, simplest prayers I've ever said. And it was, God, I can't live a decent life and continue to do the things I'm doing. Help me. And I've been grateful ever since for that opportunity and that gift that's been given to me. And it's been difficult. It's been challenging. There were times when I wanted to quit and throw the towel in, and I just chose not to. Let me check my computer real quick. Okay. I have no idea who's here watching, but I'm just going to share. Welcome to those people coming in. Let me see if I can pull up my chat on the thing. Hey, Diddy. Got to do something about that, brother. Change your path, they might let you out. Hey, I'm just a girl, baby, David Green. My name's Lance Wright, and I'm a addiction recovery specialist. And tonight's special to me, guys. I appreciate you being here. This morning at 1:30 a.m. was my 32nd year of sobriety. I don't know if any of you are alcohol or substance abusers or lifestyle abusers or have had problems around addiction, but it's been a journey. Today, I have a life that I never thought possible. Let me see what's happening. Thank you, brother. My surprise is 32 years sober. I'm grateful. And if you look at the picture in the description, my prison picture when I was 21, I had no hope and was lost going into prison at 19, 20. I think I was 19 when I got arrested. And I ended up going to prison with a life sentence. And I got sober in 93 with about 9 years in. I was still using and doing things that first 9 years because anybody that has a problem with alcohol or drugs and you're thrown into prison with a life sentence, guess what you're going to do? You're going to get screwed up every day as much as possible to obliterate that reality. And I actually did it quite well, unfortunately. I didn't know how to change. I didn't know change was possible. I didn't even know what a normal, healthy life was. And for the first 9 years, I did what we do. I continued to use drugs, rip and run, do everything. And yeah, in prison, that happens. But in March of 93, it all came crashing to a halt. About 3 months before my first parole board date to ask the parole board if I could go home, I got caught for possession of methamphetamine for distribution and being spun out of my mind. I didn't think you could go into a psychosis, and I actually did for 3 days. And when I came out of it, it was like that moment, 1:30 a.m. ish on March 11, 93, in a dark ADSEG cell at Soledad State Prison. And I had that moment, like I said earlier in this episode, of questioning everything. It was like my reality showed up, my common sense showed up, and I was asking myself, how did this happen? This is not who I am. And it was very destructive. Let me check the comments. The Cowman Show. How did I get sober? Support group, faith, cold turkey. I would say that all the above. I mean, that night in that ADSEG cell, when I had that moment, and it was like, I don't want this anymore. This isn't who I am. It was that moment of awakening that I had to do something different, even if I didn't know what it was. I mean, if I don't know what's wrong with my engine and I'm not a mechanic, I'm pretty much in trouble. And that morning of March 11, 93, I had a broken engine and I wasn't a mechanic, but I knew that I needed help. I knew I couldn't keep doing the things I was doing. And I remember I said that prayer, God, I can't live a decent life and continue to do the things I'm doing. Help me. And it was from here that I said that, not here. And shortly thereafter, excuse me, I went into my parole board to ask them if I could go home, which I knew was never going to happen at that point. I didn't even know if it would happen at any point. But I remember going into the parole board that day with a freedom that I never had, because I could admit that I had a problem and that I didn't know the solution, but that I was on a path to figure it out with the rest of my time and the rest of my life, because I didn't like the person I had been or was. And they just kind of clapped and wished me well, and boom, that was the end of their conversation. But another thing happened that day in that parole board room. Matthew, the young man who lost his life when I was 19, and I don't go into specifics because I want to honor his family and that part of it and the people that were involved. I'm responsible for my actions. And I remember his mom, Miss Ellis, she talked about him growing up and all the things that he meant to the family and how hard it was that he wasn't there. And then she looked me in the eye and she goes, we're Christians. We don't believe in hate. It would serve no purpose. We forgive you. But we don't understand how you could have done this to our loved one or our family. And everything was real quiet. How can this lady forgive me for this unspeakable thing when I can't forgive myself? And I can't say drugs and alcohol were the only thing involved in her son not being here anymore. And so I just kind of like was at a loss. But what she did do that day is I believe she gave me a piece of her spirit, looking back on it, and God using her to tell me to figure it out, to understand my story and how this little baby became a monster and did the things I did. And really, I didn't understand that then. I didn't understand that for quite a few years, actually. I actually got involved when I went to another prison shortly thereafter with the help of a roommate that was, when you're celled up with somebody and you got nothing but time, you talk. And this kid that I was celled up with, his name was, I don't even remember his name. He was like an Opie Taylor kid. Like he was in there for jaywalking. Some people just don't belong in prison. And he was one of them. But that night we talked and I was sharing my story and the craziness of my life. He kind of looked at me weirdly and he goes, hey, you should go to those meetings. I'm like, what are you talking about? He goes, yeah, they have these AA meetings over here in the chapel. Or education, I think he said, on Thursday nights. And I go, that stuff doesn't work. And he, I tried all that. I went to the meetings. I did the book. I read the prayers. I had a cup of coffee. And where was my miracle? And looking back on it, at that moment, from my perspective today, I had a very infantile, limited idea of what recovery meant. But then he responded, he goes, well, hey, I'll go with you. I'll go to those meetings with you if it'll help. And here I am going, okay, God, you're going to have Opie Taylor, a guy ain't ever even jaywalked, take me to an AA meeting in prison. Okay. So I started going. And really, I was going just to go through the motions because I didn't think it worked and didn't know it worked. Let me check you in here. Amen. I don't have any secrets anymore. I had a lot. Well, I don't even know if they were secrets. Ooh, let me get this right. Cowman, I didn't even know if it was a secret. I just didn't know. You know, I mean, it was like, how did I get here was probably the biggest thing. And ending up in that meeting, none of us knew how to get sober. I mean, we knew how to be sober, I guess, not drinking or using or getting in trouble, but we didn't know how to live sobriety and live recovery and live like human beings. We had no idea what that looked like. And so, but I was going because they were giving you a chrono that said, we're going to give you a chrono so you can take it to the parole board. And I'm a manipulator. That's what most addicts and alcoholics are. And so I was going to these meetings to get this chrono, and it was all, well, let me get back in here. Hey, Heart of Fire. Appreciate you, Heart of Fire. Yeah, Ben, I don't get into that stuff, man. I got enough time trying to help people figure their own personal lives out and live healthier and not hurt people, man. You know, that energy's not from me. I got caught up for a minute in all of it because I live in California and I have family and friends on all spectrums. And I have different opinions too, so I just kind of stay out of it, man. I'm more of a Californian than, but I have liberal positions, conservative things. I mean, I think we all do. I just don't want to fight anymore. I want to work together to heal things and not break things down or point fingers or yell and scream anymore. And I believe God's going to work it out. God's bigger than any man, woman, you or me. So I just have faith in that space. And I wake up every day helping the man who's still suffering or woman. And I carry a message and I live my life in integrity to honor the past that I can't change and build a future that I can. That's what my whole mission is. Let me see what you got going on over here. Yeah, no problem, brother. You know, hey, I get it, man. I love you. I love every one of you. I appreciate you just chiming in. And really, it's my heart, man. I don't like seeing people hurt. I know what it's like to live in hurt and pain. I lived there for 30 years of my life before I got into recovery and didn't even understand that all of those things had created this monster: the hurt, the pain, the anger, the resentments, the narratives, the belief systems. And real quick here, if any of you would subscribe and follow me, I would appreciate it. If you have any questions, put them in there. I'll answer to the best of my ability. I'm going to be doing this more and more. I want to reach out and make a big community and build a community of us to help one another. You can actually DM me. You can email me at my link in my bio, and I will communicate with you and do whatever I can to help. And I appreciate you helping me. But back to this story. That's the commercial break, I guess, they tell me. So I go to these meetings and I'm going, nobody knows how to change. Nobody knows how to fix that broken engine. That's us. And one night a guy comes in, new to the yard, got a cut hair tattoo on his neck, kind of a gruffy Hispanic looking gentleman. And not like, he didn't look very pleasant, but he was kind of very alert. You could tell he was very observant and he listened. And we're all talking out our neck about this step or that principle, because that's all we know is to quote a book or what we think it says. And it got to him, and he started talking about life. He started talking about pain and hurt. He started talking about growing up in a family that was very structured and organized and losing his sister, and then a football injury ending his college career, and something happening horrific to his girlfriend, and him taking the law into his own hands and coming into prison and becoming a gang member and becoming a monster. And he says, I was in that space and my life was over, and I met a man in an AA room that told me I was full of shit. He said, if you want my help, I'll help you, but don't waste my time. And this gentleman's name was Richard, and Richard said, I heard that message, and I began to visit with him and visiting in the visiting room on the weekends and do these steps and have these conversations about my life and understanding how I got here. And He says he helped me understand a lot about my life. He made suggestions so that I would practice things differently in my life as opposed to what I used to be or do. And he says, one day I realized it worked pretty good and it still does. It might work for you. And he kind of tossed the mic. I don't know about you, but that guy knows something. He was the first person in my entire life that I'd ever heard speak about recovery in a way that made sense and that it might work. I didn't know necessarily that it would, but this guy got my attention. And I got to know him. He used to hang out with us. He talked to us about all kinds of different things. Everybody ran away on me. Well, I'm going to hang out and keep talking, folks. I'm glad and grateful for you hanging in here with me. Let me see here. I'll have to listen to that, brother. I definitely will. I'm going to look that up. Let me see it again here. As sick as the secrets within, I will definitely do that because I really, really can't tell you how much I appreciate this moment sitting here in my little podcast studio that my wife and I built, starting to build a community. I don't even know if brand, it isn't about the money, it isn't about the prestige, it's about you and me. It's about us learning how to help one another and help others and maybe change our communities and change lives. For every life we change a community and a family. And we spare pain. And that's really the gift. That is an amends that I live every day. And some days I'm tired. Some days I want to just crawl into a hole, and I don't because I know God's given me a purpose that I never had before. And today I know how I ended up in prison from a broken child, teen, all the things that happened. And I'm not going to go into that here. I just wanted to let you know that and answer your question, Cowman, that I didn't know what recovery was. And going through the steps with a really good sponsor, mentor, father figure, whatever you want to call him, because he was a lot more than a sponsor to me. He was like somebody that God spoke through with his experience to help me connect to mine and to heal my wounds and to live a healthier, more civil life, for lack of a better word. And I still do that to this day. And again, I just want to say this tonight, I'm just giving gratitude to waking up today and to being sober 32 years today and to daring to take a chance to change my life, to trust others, to believe and build hope and faith and integrity in myself. One of my biggest drugs was validation. Growing up, I didn't get that in my home. I got that in my neighborhood. I got that from my friends. I got that from stealing. I got that from having drugs. I got that from being that crazy kid. And I would do whatever you wanted me to do because my whole identity was based on what you thought of me or what I thought you thought of me. And I would do whatever it took to keep that. If that's not crazy and if that's not addiction and that isn't progressive, I don't know what is, because that with drugs took me to prison. Because the night of the incident, this is the craziest piece ever. I go back to what Miss Ellis asked me, how could this happen? That night, at that location where her son lost his life, and then no secret, I am owning that and I honor it. And every day I will never ever deny my life and my past because that's how I live my life today, in honor and integrity and to them first. Is that I wanted to go home and take a cup of wine and go to sleep. I'd been up for about a week. And if anybody's familiar with uppers, I try to keep the language down because they might flag me. I was cranky and irritable. I just wanted to go home and go to sleep. But the guys I was with and the things they were talking about doing, I couldn't say no to because I couldn't be a punk and I couldn't be weak. I couldn't walk away. I couldn't tell them I didn't want to go along. And so that fateful night, a man lost his life, and I spent 27 years of my own in a cage. The last 18, by the grace of God, being guided and mentored by a man and men, and becoming one of those men that helped other men and mentored them and helped them transform hundreds and thousands of lives. And I just can't imagine being here talking to you. It's like, I know that person well. I know the narratives. I know the anger. I know the place I used to live. This place is amazing. It's freedom on a whole other level. And any more questions? If anybody in there has any sober dates, let me see it. Chime in. Let me know if you're sober or if you know somebody that's struggling with alcohol or substances. Chime in and leave a comment. Maybe your sober date, maybe a friend who's struggling, and I'll say a prayer for him tonight, man, because I know how difficult it is. When you're in the addiction, everybody thinks just stop, just get a job, just do this, just do that. It's not like that. I want to do a whole episode on this, but I'll give you a few moments. Addiction is a habit with progressive consequences. And a habit is a neural pathway which our brain is made up of. It's 1 and 1 is 2. That's a habit. How I wash dishes or how I play baseball, that's a habit. It's a neural pathway. I play ball right-handed. I have a neural pathway that I don't even have to think about when I go out to play baseball. I just do. Now, if you said today, Lance, you have to go play baseball left-handed, guess what? I don't have a neural pathway that says left-handed baseball. I'm in trouble. It's going to be awkward. It's going to be frustrating. I'm going to have to practice a lot. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to fail. I'm going to have to get back up and get back out on the field and practice again. I'm going to strike out. All those things I'm going to go through just to learn how to play left-handed baseball. Well, can you imagine somebody that's been doing drugs or alcohol for 10 years and they get sober, they go through detox, and you're like, go live and prosper. Well, the only neural pathway that have had reinforced for 10 years is happy, joyous, celebratory, depressed, lonely, sad, get screwed up, do drugs, drink, obliterate that space. Nope, not feeling it. And now they're sober and we're sitting there telling them, just live and prosper. It's not like that at all. We have to literally learn a whole new way of being. You know, if you want to talk about step 5, 6, 7, or 1, 2, and 3, I can go into all that because I love that stuff. But I don't need to talk about steps. I can just talk about principles and reality. If you know it's wrong, practice the opposite. If you're a thief, stop stealing. If you're dishonest, be honest. If you're aggressive, learn how to communicate effectively and assertively. If you don't know how to express your feelings, maybe increase your emotional intelligence. Work with somebody. Oftentimes, we do not know how to do these things alone, and it takes the help of others. I don't know if this makes sense, but this is recovery. This is life. This is what we do. English or Spanish, your movie is Guy? I don't know. What did you mean by that, gamer? If you had a question, let me know. My movie is sobriety. My movie is helping people. My movie is understanding addiction is bigger than drugs and alcohol. It's a lifestyle. It's an addiction to narratives. It's an addiction to beliefs. It's addiction to this or that. I would say, and I usually don't talk about my own personal family members, but I had a father figure when I was a kid. I grew up in the 60s during desegregation. And they put us all in the same schools. We hung out, we chilled out. It was great. And there was black kids, white kids, Mexican kids, Asian kids. We didn't know the difference. We were going to school, we were playing blocks together, we were playing jump rope together, we were playing kickball together. We all got along. We didn't see any of the big problem or difference. But the elders in the community that came out of the 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, racism was still a part of their life. That was part of their narrative. That was part of the way they thought. Now, we know today racism hasn't got a place in society, although it exists, and we could go down that rabbit hole another day and how people are addicted to narratives that anything different is bad or wrong or no good or all that, instead of being inclusive and saying we should come together and be one family. But what he used to talk about didn't make sense to me. It made perfect sense to his narratives that he grew up in, but I grew up in a whole different generation and a whole different narrative. And I can remember always wondering why he talked the way he talked or said the things he said. And I understand now, and it was wrong, but it was his generation. It was like the Archie Bunker, Fred Sanford generation, if you know who those guys are. And I'm grateful for having seen and grew up, or having grown up in the time I grew up, not to be as attached to those narratives as I was, or he was, I should say. But that's an addictive narrative because it has progressive consequences in our society. It divides, it separates, it tears down, it chastises, it judges. Those are addictive, and those create progressive consequences. Look at our world right now. It's happening all around us. And we could all come together and change the world if we really had a desire to do that. But that's going to require some people putting down their rock and not casting it against that woman taken in adultery, saying, hey, I have my own sins. I have my own faults. Let's talk about solutions. If there's a problem, let's look at solutions. That's the real deal. If it's wrong, practice the opposite. And today, I guess that's the biggest gift on my 32nd birthday of sobriety, being sober from all substances and behaviors, is that change is possible, that you can do it. No matter where you're at in life, you can stand up, step forward, and build an amazing life. It may not even be drugs and alcohol. You might just have a narrative that I can't make things change. I'm stuck. This is hopeless. Not buying it. Let's go. Let's make something happen in your life. If you put the effort in, things can change. I don't care who you are, where you are. It happened for me in a prison ad seg cell. It can happen to you on your couch or your chair or your car or wherever you're at right now watching this. Change is possible if you put the work in, and there's people like me out here to help you. I don't think it's just alcohol and drugs are something we do to obliterate a sense of self that we can't deal with. That's Gabor Mate talks about that a lot, and I really respect his opinions. And I realized today that it's not just drugs and alcohol. If you're stuck wherever you're stuck, let's get unstuck and go figure it out and make your life amazing. What do you want for your life? Put it in there. Send me a DM, send me a message. Let's do a meeting. Let's talk about it. Because anything is possible. Anything. Except for maybe me going to Canada, Australia, or Japan, because they told me I can't come there. But other than that, life's pretty good. And with that, I want to thank you for spending a few moments of my sober birthday. Hopefully I made some sense to you and helped you see some things differently. I'm going to be going live a lot more. I ask for your, please subscribe and follow. Hey, President James Dean, God bless. Like and follow, subscribe. This is all new to me. I want to build a community. I want your help. I want your engagement. Let's start having a different conversation, bigger than drugs and alcohol. How about whatever the problem is, let's build a solution. That I'm in for, and I will support that 100%. Again, my name's Lance. I'm right. I'm an addiction recovery specialist. I believe addiction's bigger than drugs and alcohol, and I believe you can change. I thank you all for spending a few minutes with me tonight. It's a little late for me. It's been a long day, and I'm going to keep pushing. I'm going to keep helping. I'm going to keep being here for you. God bless and keep you until we meet again soon. Peace.